Is RMT union leader Mick Lynch ruining everyone's Christmas? Well, he is. That's according to the Daily Mail and The Sun. It was the Mail that coined the nickname of the union firebrand, but The Sun decided to write a hit piece. Mick Grinch, militant union boss Mick Lynch wreaks havoc with crippling train strikes during Christmas and New Year. According to The Sun, people are outraged. However, polls consistently show that the majority of people support the RMT. There is also a clip where Lynch directly responds to a Daily Mail reporter. Let's take a look.
Starts off Christmas being nicknamed Mick Grinch. Is that a nickname you're proud of?
Well, I expect that from yourself. That's the sort of quality journalism I've come to expect from your particular dark corner of Fleet Street. So you can call us what you want, and no doubt you will call us what you want, and you called Mr. Mosley one of the finest things that ever happened, as I remember, when you were back in the black shirts.
Tory MP Brendan Clark-Smith said punishing passengers during a usually merry season shows that he really is the Lynch that stole Christmas. Curtis, is Mick Lynch stealing Christmas? Will he be visited by the ghost of Christmas past?
The ghost of Christmas past will certainly be around, but they won't be visiting Mick Lynch. They'll be visiting the CEOs of the rail network companies, and I'm pretty sure they'll be visiting every single member of the Conservative Party, because they are the ones that are causing this dispute. The Conservatives can make sure the negotiations can happen, and Mick Lynch is, to be fair, Mick Lynch has been attacking the government more than the bosses, because he said he's had a lot of amicable conversations with a lot of the bosses. But still, regardless, these CEOs don't want to give a pay rise to these hard workers. And the government have the same interests. So I hope the ghost of Christmas past visits them, because they are the ones that are causing all of this. But I think as well, like, to say that he's ruining Christmas, there's literally like 3 or 4 dates that they're striking. And the last date is on, the 17th of December? So it's not really over the Christmas period exactly, right? But even still, I think, a lot of the media, or some of the media, has spoken to representatives of hospitality businesses, and they're like, oh, this is going to hit our busiest period and stuff like that. Like, remember, RMT is a union that, represents rail workers. I don't know anyone who gets on the train to go to a pub. I don't know anyone who gets on the train to do Christmas shopping. I'm sure there may be some people out there, but they're probably a minority. So if you really want to go to the pub, just go to your local pub. If you want to go Christmas shopping, support your local businesses. I don't think it's disrupting people in this particular instance. We know Christmas happens on the same day every year, so you can prepare for it. If this is really disrupting you, and if you care more about getting drunk, or you care more about buying Christmas presents, than the RMC fighting for the livelihoods of their workers, fighting for proper pay, fighting against job cuts, then I think you need to get your priorities right.
Obviously, I said just then that the Sun is saying that people are outraged, but actually polls are showing that majority of people do actually support the strikes and do support the RMT. This is not just another really good example of media trying to create a bit of a frenzy, a bit of outrage, a bit of negativity towards something where there isn't actually any call for that.
Who owns the newspapers? Who owns the Daily Mail? Who owns the Sun? These aren't working class people. These aren't people that care about the working class. You've got Lord Rothermere and you've got Rupert Murdoch. These are billionaires. These are people that don't pay any taxes. These are the types of people that love the idea of workers getting paid crap. So they're not doing this because they care about ordinary people's Christmases. They're not doing it because of that. They're doing it because they want to destroy unions in the world and in its entirety, because they don't want workers having a voice. They don't want the working class having a voice. And unions, because there's no political representation in Parliament, unions is the only way to fight back. That's why. So, and the story is always the same. The Sun has always been against unions because it's not in their interests. Interestingly, the Sun actually doesn't even turn a profit. And the reason why it didn't turn a profit is because the point of The Sun and these right-wing newspapers isn't even to turn a profit. Their point is to try and change the political discourse. They just want to push propaganda on people. So they know they're losing money on their newspapers, but they don't care because that's not the point. It's not to make money. It's to change people's minds against working class solidarity.
Is this also because they've got, a hand in with politicians and the government and stuff like that, and they're almost like, is it right to say that the government will, it to an extent, direct like their discourse and the things that they report on, or is it just that they just have similar? Well,
no, it's not. It's not a coincidence, right? The political system is set up in a way that there are a lot of politicians in there that aren't there to represent our interests. They're in there because they're lobbyists for big companies, and Tony Blair met with Rupert Murdoch many times when he was in opposition. And funny enough, The Sun endorsed Tony Blair, but not only that, there was a massively favourable coverage of Tony Blair. Now, he governed as a massive right-winger and he lost millions of votes because of it, but he basically turned around to the media class and, by extension, the 1%, the billionaire class. I'm on your side, don't worry about that. So, of course, the Conservative, and when we talk about the Conservative Party, they're completely in the same circles. There's a revolving door between the media and the BBC as well. There's a revolving door between government, BBC, and right-wing media. They are all against unions, and unions are just a representation of workers. Now, these dates aren't forced upon by an unelected boss. Mick Lynch is a union leader. He was voted. He's elected. And the membership votes to go on strike. Okay, you can't force anyone to do anything. So this is a collective thing. Also, RMT workers, railway workers, they're people too. They enjoy Christmas. They enjoy going to the pub. They want to go Christmas shopping. They are the public. You hear a lot in the media that, well, you're just disrupting workers and you're disrupting the public. They are the public. These are normal, everyday people who are just fighting for their voice, who are just fighting for the very basic things that they deserve.
Obviously, nurses and teachers and university lecturers, they've all recently voted to take on strike action, or are currently striking, or recently have. What's the sort of discourse been like and the conversation been like with, for like nurses, for example? Has it, there's a lot of media outcry for all these kinds of strikes. Has it been similar for nurses and doctors?
It's always the same. Back when Jeremy Hunt was health secretary, and what he was doing to the NHS then, there was lots of threats to strikes from nurses. What was the discourse in the media? How dare you go on strike? You have an obligation. You have a duty to defend those in the health service. You're effectively killing people if you go on strike. At what point, though, when nurses and doctors and those who work in the NHS, who are working 60, 70, 80 hours a week, who are getting paid less than minimum wage effectively, have appalling working conditions, at what point do they get to turn around and say, enough is enough? Am I going to work myself into an early grave? Are you going to really hold me hostage? Are you going to make me feel guilty the way that what might happen if nurses go on strike? Do you know what? I think this, if there was a big nurses strike and that, more people died because of it, don't blame the nurses. Blame the government, who are refusing to engage with nurses, who are refusing to discuss their demands, are refusing to give them safe working conditions. It's not safe. And you have the audacity to turn around during lockdown and clap for all these people. But then when the material conditions is the question, well, I can't do that, can't afford it. Well, you can afford CEO pay. You can afford privatisation in the NHS. No one cares. No one seems to ask a question in the media about the disgusting gross inequality. No one seems to talk about the fact that rural male bosses are adding 30% of their wage. They're adding millions of pounds to their wage every single year. But if you're working class, if you're the backbone of the economy, and you want a pay rise, or you want safe working conditions, no, can't have that. So of course, the media around any union, it doesn't matter whether it's nurses, teachers, lecturers, or rail workers, it will always be the same, because there's an incentive to destroy unionism in this country. There's an incentive to destroy, I can't get my words out now, an incentive to destroy working class solidarity, because they are a threat to the establishment, the billionaire class, and the Conservatives, because they represent them. Their constituents from the Conservatives is the rich people, the very richest.